So what if you like come back, like you said, $50,000 and pay, like if like held it for for those 2 months of these 2 months that the money was held. But it's just like that, or once we got the loan secured, then we would already have the money.
There's 1.3 million
Yes.
in cash right now.
Yeah, there's 7.2.
1.2 so far, for my situation, that's 0.3. Yeah, so he said 3 months, so there's no backups.
They don't like on that phase that you got to about 123. They know what they're doing for this money.
And so, the money by the time we have protected. But so, like I said, you're hoping this. I think it's going to cost me.
Okay, let's bring over the regular city council meeting from September 5th, 2017. It's now 6:48. And roll call, please.
Counselor Westerler? Here. Counselor Warren?
Here.
Counselor Baker?
Present.
Counselor Snyder?
Present.
Counselor Shunk?
Here.
Counselor Cameron? Here. Mayor Les?
Here. Okay, pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There are no presentations tonight, but we're going to take public comments or items that aren't on the agenda. If anyone wants to speak about an item that's not on the agenda, we have a couple, right? Okay. You can sit right there and give us your name and address.
Okay. Never done this.
Hi, I'm Katie Farrell. I live in Phoenix since 2005. I lived in Ashton for about 20 years before that. And I served on the planning commission here in Phoenix for about 3 years, which was really interesting. And I welcome all the new faces I'm seeing on the council. That's wonderful. I've always wanted to be more involved in Phoenix. And when I saw the opportunity on First Street to rent a small storefront, I talked to a couple of my friends who work a lot on the environmental issues and in the valley, and we have rented a space at 107 West First Street to open sort of a shared office. My piece of it will be something I had done in one of John Fields' buildings, who's actually an excellent builder. You probably all know John Fields. Allowed me to have his big store downtown for about 6 months because he knew I'd get a lot of energy and people too, so we could rent it. And we created the Center for Creative Change in that space. And I'm kind of revisiting that and revitalizing that. It's a way to start sort of linking the arts with the public needs, and so I've been involved for a long time in the arts community, school community, then the environmental community, and theaters here too. So I invited my friend Christina Lefevre, who's here. She is the originator, or the head really, of Pollinator Project Rogue Valley. But they've been very busy in supporting the bee cities, and we know Phoenix became a bee city just recently. I was excited about that because I sat on the planning commission while we hashed out the ordinances for people being able to have bees on their property, and also other domestic farm animals, and that was really fun. we enjoyed that a lot. So Christina's here, and we also contacted Beyond Toxics, which is a really pretty well-established nonprofit up in Jackson County. A lot of the groups are moving in the direction of Phoenix is, and I always thought it's a blank slate. This is where we could do so much more. So we're really excited about that. We have a lot of invitations for you. September 16th is going to be our open house from 4 to 7, 7:30. We'll have music, and you can come and meet Lisa Arkin from Beyond Toxics and Christina and myself. And just very excited to be able to really offer something to support all the energy that is happening here. Thank you.
Do you want to drop off your phone about?
Sure. Yeah. There's lots of things in here for you, and
If
some
you want to
information
say
for
a word,
Beyond
you're
Toxics.
on the list to speak.
I prepared my remarks. I remember what to say, so y'all bear with me. So good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Christina Lefevre from Ashland. I'm chair of the V-City USA Ashland, and also president of Pollinator Project Grove Valley, also known as PPRV, which is easier to say. And most of you know Sharon Schmidt. She's chair of the V-City USA Phoenix, and also Cascade Girl. But she wasn't able to be here tonight. She's a board member of PPRV as well. And so tonight, I just wanted to say a few words about PPRV, leave greetings, and invite you to our open house. As Katie talked about, we're really happy to be sharing the space with Katie and Beyond Toxics. I think it's going to help add a lot to the community. There's so much support for pollinators here in Phoenix. Y'all are the 9th V-City USA in the country. We have that wonderful pollinator garden over at Blue Heron Park. You've got the pollinator garden program for your residents. And then don't forget the beautiful mural that's happening over there on exit 24. It's pretty awesome. So my hope is that by having Pollinator Project Grove Valley here, we're going to continue to support the work of V-City USA Phoenix, help raise awareness about the importance of our pollinators, honeybees, native bees, butterflies, moths, hummingbirds, and even flies. We do have some flies that we really want. They're good pollinators. With the world changing so fast and the landscape disappearing, we have pesticides used, we have climate change, we have fires, I should mention probably. Our pollinators are in trouble, and so we need to just make sure people understand why they're important. They provide us with 1 out of 3 bites of our food. Think of all the things you ate today that are pollinated. Blueberries, I had blueberries for breakfast. Also, 90% of the plants we see around us, the trees and the shrubs, the wildflowers, the lupins, the madrones, the shooting stars, those are all pollinated. So where would we be without those? So we're excited to be here with the ability to collaborate with V-City USA Phoenix. We're looking to offer workshops and classes and just get people from all over the valley engaged in saving our pollinators. I do want to repeat what Kate said and invite you to the open house. We have a buzzway project happening where we're putting pollinator friendly places on a map. It'll be a GIS map, it's a new word I learned recently. And so we would definitely want to get Blue Heron on there and the pollinator gardens that are happening in town, so we can put them on the map and people can see where the pollinators can go and hopefully find support. That's all I had to say. Thanks so much.
Thank you. There's only 1 copy of this. I'm going to have staff just scan the email to the city council, and then we post it to City Hall also.
I can email it to you if you like, or just, either way, I can send you a PDF or a JPEG of it.
There's some small flyers in there too, for that packet. And
Yeah. But yeah, I'll make a note, Mr. Mayor, to send it to you. Yeah.
Email to me.
Thank you. And then here's a little, right, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. We have 1 request.
Chris, I was on their comments.
Repeat, I'm sorry. Come on up.
Thank you.
Next one.
That's gonna show up in that comment, right?
Repeat, all right.
Hello, I'm Carolina Marshall. I am the chair board at the First Phoenix Community Center. The address is 121 West 2nd Street. And I just wanted to let you all know we had a wonderful carnival on August 26th, the last day of blue skies that we had. It was gorgeous. By Saturday morning, I had received $520 in donations. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sarah, for coming and helping and for bringing your families to enjoy the carnival or work at the carnival. It was amazing. And I just love it. We had a wonderful time. I was the slide operator, and my buddy Mike, who usually does it with me, is no longer with the community center and church, but Rick Hurst, my dishwasher from the dinner, showed up, and he was awesome. And I wish I had the pictures. I'll bring them. I'll bring a little poster for you guys because it's wonderful. We had over 42 volunteers. We had over 85 hours, donations from Summit Beverage, and just face painters and kind folks and clothes folders and grilling hot dogs. It was just an amazing event and very well attended, and people helped break it all down, and we still have a few things left to clean up, but we're pretty well there. It'd take a while. I'm glad that we're going to be moving forward with a way for the city and for nonprofits and community places in this town to come together and help fund each other with the grant writing process or whatever that ends up being. I would like to participate in that. I loved having the people from the council coming to the carnival, way more than any cash that you guys could have given. That was wonderful. I really enjoyed that. And I hope to tell you guys more about our history over these next few months that I come and talk to you here in these few minutes. I really love that, that I get to talk to you guys. I am totally supportive of the Plaza building, our new neighbors that are going to be building over there on Main Street. They're just, if we look out the fireside, we can see the site, and I totally am committed to helping with that and being a part of that. Very excited. They'll be our neighbors. Dinner is September 14th. Here's an invite for all of you. You just pass those in. We are serving a medley of fish fillet, Cajun style, steamed rice, mixed vegetables. This is my favorite part, an apple bread pudding with a bourbon vanilla sauce. Everybody's invited. Thank you.
Graffiti.
Thank you. Graffiti?
Did you have graffiti on here?
I did not. No.
Start graffiti thing.
I know, I was like, that's funny. Somebody wrote it? I thought they'd gotten away with that.
Perfect.
Oh, gratitude.
All right. Very good.
All right, thank you. All right, next item is consent agenda. We had already asked us to pull item number 1 on consent agenda, leaving number 2, resolution number 999 on consent agenda. Anybody want to pull it?
Ray wants to vote.
Ray requested that we pull item number 1. We're not going to discuss it all tonight. It's just pulled from the agenda, leaving just item number 2, resolution number 999 on the consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull that particular item?
Okay.
Well, I'm actually going to pull number 1, leaving just number 2 on the agenda. So, if no one has an objection, we're going to keep number 999 on the agenda and I'll entertain a motion to approve. What's that? In the minutes.
I move to approve the consent.
I'm sorry.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Cameron?
Here.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Counselor Snyder?
Yes.
Counselor Shaw?
Yes. It was number 8, discussions of updates or additions to codified council rules, on page 13. So, good, Dave.
launch into this. This is a discussion that was requested some time ago by Councilor Westover. And I had prepared back in the spring an agenda report for you that after reviewing what you have in your codified council rules, that I broke out into kind of 3 sections. And the first section is, here are some things that are already in your rules that I think could be updated or clarified. And I want to explain, your rules are fine, as long as everybody agrees on how to interpret them and what they mean. And of course, the problem is that councils turn over, you get different people, rules don't. So it's better for your rules to be constant because your counselors will not be. So I created a list of things that I thought could be improved or clarified. That's the first part. And then the second part was, well, here's a list of things that you really normally see in other cities' council rules and procedures. Every city is a little bit different, but there are certain commonalities in council rules. There are some things that I think are missing. And then the third thing was, there are some other things that you might want to discuss. These aren't a big deal. I think a couple of them are things that are in the city's model rules I've seen in other cities. You might just want to talk about whether or not you want to have these things. So at your last meeting, the council gave me direction to go ahead and draft language to bring back to you at this meeting for those items that were in that first category. How do we update and clarify those items that are already in your council rules and procedure? And those suggestions are included in your packet in the draft ordinance that I put in. It's not an ordinance, it's just a code, copy of the code. In the second category, I was hoping that you could have some discussion tonight. Well, you should discuss the first category, so have some discussion of the items in the second category about whether or not you want to move forward with drafting ordinance language to potentially include in an ordinance that comes back to you to modify the council rules. And then you have the other discussion items, whether you want to do that or not. The other thing that I'm not trying to force this on you, but I feel personally very strongly that any local government should have a code of ethics in its code. Of course, as public officials, we're all subject to ORS 244, Oregon Government Ethics Law. And whether it's in your code or not, we're all subject to that ethics law. But I think there's no harm in spelling it out in your code and saying, it's a way of saying to everyone who works for the city, whether in an appointed or an elected capacity, we want to remind you that we're serious about ethics. And here's our code of ethics. And by the way, if you violate the code of ethics, and if you're an employee anyway, you're gone. We're not going to put up with unethical behavior. To me, that as much as anything is the justification for putting a code of ethics. And actually writing it into the municipal code. Do you have to have it? Again, no. We're subject to Oregon government ethics laws no matter what. But I personally think that there's value in having an ordinance like that in the code. So I will leave it at that. I'm happy to answer any questions about anything that's in the packet, or if you want to just take it with the items in the first category and go through them and see if everyone's comfortable with the language that we're not with.
Well, I think we'll take the first category first and open up the council for discussion. He made some reasonable edits based on input from some of us, and just one discussion of things that David's put in the first part, which are the council rules and underlines. Yeah, we're all okay with the underlying verbiage. That was too easy. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Good job, Dave. Well, that was
There's a couple of things, but I've got a whole bunch of other minor edits that are inclusive in a short paragraph document that are not addressed by your underlining.
Okay.
But if you just want to do the underlining, maybe you should look for anything to add only in those, then you go back into another page.
Yeah, let's see. Well, it's no question on the underlining, so we've got to do it. You have some, yeah. Okay. Alright.
Okay, let me find them.
And can you refer to page numbers?
Yeah,
Bring them up to.
you just find the first one, that is an underline. On page 18, near the bottom, there's a paragraph, A as in alpha. Says only members of the council, the city manager, and persons specifically invited by the city manager to the council should be allowed to attend executive sessions. Doesn't say the mayor can do that. And I think there's two places we can add that, if it's appropriate.
Technically, not really council, but we can put.
Well, there's other places where it says council too, so, but I want to make sure there's no definition in here that says you are a member of the council, it's supposed to be separate. There's other things that say the mayor can do this or that.
At some point, we talk about the mayor and the city council, so it's gonna be, I think, consistent with the language.
Yeah.
So it says the members of
The
the council, the mayor, and the city manager, to be consistent with that language.
yeah, specifically invited by the city manager, on the mayor, or the council should be allowed.
So you're suggesting that the mayor should be permitted to invite someone to attend an executive session without seeking the consent of the council, basically.
Well, you're doing it too, but this.
Wait, can you say what you just said again?
Well, he's suggesting that with the language in there, the mayor can invite someone to executive session. One saying, you can do that already, so why can't you? Not that.
I think I understand maybe with the, so it's, when we say council, that means council including the mayor. And when we delineate council and mayor, that means, that refers to like in a situation like this, that the mayor is a part of the council and doesn't act on his own accord.
That's how I interpret it. But Brian might want to jump in here, but understand that when you hold an executive session, you can't have extraneous people in there. However, the council, at the point you go into executive session and state, well, we've invited John Doe to sit in on this executive session because, and then it's okay. The problem is that if you invite people, or if people sit in an executive session without specifically being invited, because they have some legitimate purpose for being there, you open yourselves to a challenge that you held the executive session illegal. Is that correct?
Right. The way it's written now, the mayor would be part of the council. When it refers to mayor and council, it's redundant. It's harmless, but it's redundant, but it would make a difference to council, including the mayor and the city manager. So the executive session, which is typical. Basically, like you said, the big point is just making sure it's limited, invitations are limited here across the state, and not arbitrarily by thirds.
I think there's some verbiage in rules that state that the mayor can call for executive session, the council member can call for executive session, or the city manager can call for executive session. If that's the case, there might be a time when the mayor has to invite someone because he's the one calling the executive session.
This will allow you to invite, as it does with the council, the way it's written. It's ambiguous because of honestly.
The timing trouble I have with this is, does it mean the way it's written that any individual councilor can invite somebody to the executive session without permission of the other?
Yes.
Okay.
So we want,
The council, it should be the council.
If an issue comes up, then you can have a vote. You know, if one council person invites an individual and there's a concern, it could be put to a vote. You want to let this person have one.
The way it's written now, it says only the city manager or the council as a whole can invite people to attend an executive session. Typically, you would state for the record, we want John Doe to attend this executive session because, he has specific information that's pertinent to the matter that we're discussing. So that if you change it, and perfectly able to, the city manager, the mayor, or the council, I'll just point out that essentially that's saying is, in my reading, the mayor can unilaterally invite someone to attend the executive session. I'm not sure if that passes muster in public meetings. You know?
Yes, we can determine the rules for, you can invite anyone in if you like. There's no prohibition in the public meetings law against inviting people. There's prohibitions restricting the, but you're allowed to invite whomever you want. The authority is to exclude whoever you want, except the press.
So for the mayor to unilaterally invite someone to executive session in the language agreement.
Yes, and if you didn't want, somebody didn't want that person, you have to go to the result as well. This will rarely come up, that's sure, but it's definitely a laser precision. That's legit ambiguity, but it shouldn't cause a problem.
The real break in the system, if any one of us decides to invite people, and they show up, but they haven't been invited by the council, invite to come, and they show up, and the council starts its executive session. At the very beginning, there could be a movement to say person X and Y should not be here, let's vote and go out. So that's the process.
You should exclude them before you convene the executive session.
Yeah,
How do you do that without having, you can't vote before we have the session? Because I think that
You can vote before you go into executive session, which is when you want to.
okay, so you're gonna do that in the open session before the executive session. Challenge everybody if you want to.
That's correct.
Okay. All you're good on that one. On page 19, near the bottom, there's a really involved, it says, unless excused, the city manager will attend all meetings of council. To me, it raises the question of who has permission to excuse. Who is the individual who's taking excuse?
Council, but the city manager is employed at the will of the council.
Well, this is just to, not attend, she'll attend all the meetings unless excused. So my question is, who is the excuse? It has to be somebody that can grant him permission not to come. It's not clarified here.
Typically, the council, the city manager, I can't make the next meeting, council can we excuse.
Council president, or the mayor, or the vice president sitting in place of the president.
So that's gonna happen.
It would be you.
Like tonight, if he tells us he can't come to the next meeting, we're going to excuse him or not excuse him formally. By a vote.
I believe the council president will make that call individually.
You mean the presiding officer?
Resign.
Yes, the presiding officer. So it's gonna be you or somebody, whoever's playing that role, prior to the meeting, would give that authorization. And if there wasn't any authorization, you could always ratify it, the same way after the fact.
So we could say unless excused by the presiding officer, the city manager shall attend.
That's one, that would be efficient.
And this is who it should be.
Why? Everybody got it signed, they have presiding officer to get in.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay, page 20. Near the middle, there's a B1.
Sorry, say again?
On page 20, near the middle of the page,
Uh-huh.
under B agenda, below that is a number 1.
Mhm.
It says the city manager should prepare an agenda of the regular council meeting. It doesn't talk about special executive sessions. And when at that time, we come up with the, when it says regular.
I think that how executive sessions and special sessions are called is referred to in a different,
Let's talk about the city manager preparing the agenda. He's going to prepare the agenda for every meeting type that we have, but it only says regular.
well, it's written under those items that talk about special meetings, I think. Let me see if we can find it.
No, there is language regarding special meetings that says only such business may be transacted at a special meeting as may be listed in the call for said meeting. So if the mayor or the council calls for a special meeting, that's basically your agenda. Say, I want to have a special meeting for this purpose. And there really is no other agenda to be set other than the specific purpose for which the meeting is called. And as far as executive sessions are concerned, you really don't create an agenda for an executive session other than to list the ORS executive session exception that you're claiming for that particular meeting. So you would say that, you know, council is meeting under ORS 192.660, whatever, for the purpose of discussing potential litigation with the attorney, when it's written. But you wouldn't create an agenda that says, this is the potential litigation that we plan to be discussing. So,
You do that?
I'm not sure though, the language you're suggesting is necessary.
Okay. We'll let it go. Okay, that same item on the fourth line, shall have discretion in placing an item requested by a council member. Is the mayor again a member of this council? On line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 lines down and down when it talks about placing the item on the agenda that is more than 3 months later. Months for me kind of a queasy thing rather than having like 90 days or something like that. It's better to have a specific number of days. But months is kind of queasy. And days is fine. Starting at,
I think
what is a month?
So the time frame, I think typically if we're going to recommend something for agenda, there's usually some time reason for it. I think 3 months maybe excessive time frame. 2 months.
That is a discussion on how long should it be, because it should also be the days where it's more time limits, other things.
What about in number of meetings? So no more than 4 city council meetings passed before that item, or regular meetings. I mean,
I give you about 2 months.
yeah, Dave, do you see an issue with framing it that way?
Well, if you have a bean pattern, make sure you got into it, that's important.
Weigh your guys' thoughts on the time frame.
Yeah, because 3 months would be 6 meetings.
I'm okay with 60 days or 90 days, it's more specific, sometimes meetings get canceled.
Sure. The number of meetings, we're talking about.
60 days. 4 meetings. 4 meetings. 60 days.
If you set 60 days, we don't have a meeting then more than 60 days, it's up to this by a couple of days. We can fight it, so we say, well, 4 meetings, sure, it's gonna land more convenient than it's gonna.
You know, we get a holiday.
The 4 meetings?
4 regularly scheduled city council meetings?
We do that. All right.
Sometimes things take more than 90 days, like doing the road diet analysis, you ask for that to come back, doing options. It may take longer than 4 weeks. So
But
there's
that was
sometimes-
still agendized before all the information came back. So there's just a difference between agendizing something, putting it on the agenda, and then saying, oh, we still need more information. But, okay.
Well, anything over 2 hours, the council has to approve of staff time.
Right.
That's what it says, that's a whole other question, if we go into. Okay, 4 meetings. Within 4 meetings, so we'll get the 4th one released. Okay, under 1A, on the second line, it has 2 hours of preparation of staff time. Is 2 hours the right method?
You know, it's hard to say. Frankly, that was the rule that we worked with in Ashland. I think 2 hours is a lot. It didn't come up very often. But it's, you know, pick a number.
Yeah.
I don't know what the right number is.
Well, it's the amount of staff time you're willing to use on things that may not be highest priority. They're funding that process.
I think it's just giving discretion to the city manager regarding items that are going to take a lot of staff time. Given the priorities they're working on, the projects they're working on, need some discretion. Is it 1.5 hours or is it 3 hours? Just,
We're setting a standard. He's got to follow us.
Well, but it also becomes a bit of a judgment call on the city manager's part. Where council says, gee, I'm interested in discussing this issue, can you do some research for me? And, you know, I have to make a call. Is it gonna take an hour and 45 minutes, or is it gonna take 2 hours and 5 minutes?
And we spend 15 minutes thinking about how long it's gonna take. Does that function there?
Hopefully spending 15 minutes thinking about a request from an individual councilor is just a routine part of the job.
What involves coin flipping and things like that?
This actually worked well.
Yes.
Okay. That's what they said to you, the good one. That had been thought about, rationalized. Okay. Under number 4, a little further down, the last line says the mayor or presiding officer will not set the move blah blah. The mayor is a presiding officer, and the presiding officer may not be the mayor. So do we need mayor or presiding officer? We can just strike that from the public presiding officer. On that.
Either way.
And it works either way. How's the rest of the council feel about that change?
I have no smell, people would die.
Yeah. Oh, we have some
Every chapter, what's.
It's a little redundant, but I think it works.
Dave, this is our last meeting.
Yes.
We need to pass it in way more than we have.
You might
I'd
run
like to
out
make
of
a
time.
motion to pass it for the rest of the meeting.
Okay, number 5. Here we have city manager, mayor, or any council members. Now we're contradicting the way we're doing it earlier. Which is it? That's what I asked.
Yeah.
So we take out the mayor, because he's part of the council. Yeah, we've got to be consistent in this thing.
I agree.
Consistent idea all the way through.
Yeah. Only cross documents too.
So it would read the city manager or any council member subject.
As long as council members define the mayor and the city.
The mayor is a member of council.
Now, further on that same sentence, they may add an item to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. That's really going to be at the end of the meeting. When they have-
Well, what that means is that you can make a motion before the actual business of the council begins. Just be recognized by the presiding officer, make a motion to add an item to the agenda.
to tonight's meeting.
Right, and then where it goes on the agenda would actually be the decision of the presiding officer. Typically, it would go to the very end.
I couldn't work, you really have to publish it in the agenda if we can talk about it. Right, now, obviously, something published it.
You don't have, remember the purpose of the agenda is to provide reasonable notice of what discussions you might have and what actions you might take. But if there is something that has to be acted on that evening and has not been published on the agenda, there is nothing in the law that prevents the council from adding that item to the agenda. So, you know, we have a hard deadline. We have to act on this tonight when an opportunity is lost.
It rarely
Is there anything stopping us from being frivolous with that privilege?
Well,
That's a lot.
No.
We have to have
No,
a-
that's-
No, that's
Well, we self-regulate,
Ethics law.
it's approval by majority of council.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You have to police yourself.
I need data.
You know, and if councilor is being frivolous, that councilor needs to get 3 more votes to be frivolous. In which case you have a frivolous council. And hopefully the voters.
And you have
Phoenix-
strong feelings about that.
The voters in Phoenix are watching that frivolousness on the live stream on YouTube. So you're not going to get away with it forever.
So very long.
What is?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, on a federal level, we get away with it forever.
Of course.
So in the last meeting, there was an item added to the agenda at the end. It was a minor item, to help fund an event.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't want to see us adding items to the agenda that should be notified to the public. It should be a rare occasion when we do that. At least, yeah. So it should be rare. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I keep it the way it is and just.
Sure, there's
like
like
rare
system
occasions.
checks and balances with the meeting the majority to add it, so.
Yeah, it'd be nice.
Safety,
Doesn't conflict.
you've got a safety net there, I think.
Okay, good.
Question.
page 21, near the bottom of the Atkinson Foxtrot. Go to the third line, you've got city manager or mayor. Go by the mayor. What I really, let me back up on that. Go to the very first sentence. Request to the city attorney for legal advice requiring more than a de minimis, meaning a tiny little bit, amount of legal research shall not be made by a member of the council outside of a council meeting. De minimis request, that's what I think is missing in the next sentence, beginning with de minimis request as opposed to just request, where legal advice should be made by the city, made of the city attorney through the city manager or by the mayor, which now has two decision makers doing this thing, who shall determine his or her sole discretion by the law. Is it good to have two different people in charge of the same process where I, as a council member, can now go shopping, shall we say, just like some district attorneys go shopping for the right judge in order to get the right result? There should only be one person who contacts the city.
Well, it has, that's a good question. I think it has to work this way because the charter provides the city attorney works under the council. But practical reality is that we work closely with the working professionals in the city organization, the city manager, the public works director, you name it, to comply with the charter, to work under the council. You have the mayor there to contact the city attorney. You have the city manager as well, because that's the day-to-day function, you know, whereas the mayor's sometimes day-to-day is how busy they are, but it's not an 8 to 5 kind of connection like you have with the chief executive. So this works out in practical, for practical purposes that way, better that way.
I'm looking at the underlying assumptions here of why we have somebody who's being the central spoken wheel to put it out to you. And I think it's controlling the budget. Is it not?
Oh, yes, it keeps, because it can get out of hand really quick if everybody calls. If everybody had one important, comprehensive, you know, project or issue that they wanted help with, you have, say, 7 of them going 8, you know, at a time. If everybody had 2 of them, got to 16, pretty soon it becomes exponentially more expensive and time consuming.
Yeah, so if we're trying to control the budget and doing that by controlling the flow of requests, who's responsible for the budget? I think it's the city manager. He has to monitor it, not the mayor.
Right.
So now you have somebody who's responsible for the money and not responsible directly for the money, doing the same function. One's going around the other. I just don't know if that's a good philosophy.
That's one of the voids in it to some extent, but it perhaps might be outweighed by the check and balance that it brings to the table as well, because there's always a check and balance between the council and the city manager. The city manager works for the city council, the city attorney works for the city council. If you work completely under the city manager, you're not working under the council and you have an accountability issue. And so this, providing it both ways, checks and balance against itself, I think keeps the administration side accounted for and the council representation. There's no clean or mathematical solution that how we set all this up at this level. But this is some work under the council exclusively, some under the administrator exclusively. This is a hybrid model. I think that isn't good. It won't make much of a difference in the end. I think you'll see the results if things get out of hand. I think you'll see the billing before it'll show up on the horizon before it's absolutely enormous and somebody will answer to it. The city manager and the staff.
But wouldn't it be better for the mayor and the rest of the council to go through him to get to do clean, neat, one line of communication, one control of the budget?
It is.
But when it concerns him as a problem, let's just say we don't like what he's doing, then the mayor can go around it because he must be eliminated from controlling the
That's
gate.
why that's probably, both of them are in there, and I think it makes sense the way that it's written. I hear your concerns, Jim, but I think where possible, the city manager and the mayor should coordinate, so they're not, duplicating efforts.
Right, there are times for previous city manager where I contacted the city attorney directly after consulting with the city manager.
Yeah.
One time the city manager was not available and the attorney needed to be consulted. The theory is that you don't want to have 6 council members contacting it's the attorney to the same issue running up the bill. Typically, if you guys have a question that should be addressed by council, you would come to me or come to Dave, and we coordinate that, that communication on running the bill. And there's even Mayor Melly has that ability.
Okay. That's all the ones I have to underline, but there's a whole bunch of others that are not stand up. We can do it.
Anybody have any more questions regarding the underlying things? Okay, Jim wanted to throw in the category for not underlined, it's been process of now.
We'll get it over here eventually.
There's only two categories, underlined and underlined. Okay, knock it out.
Okay, page 16. In the middle of the time. This is one that goes through voting to extend. At the very end, it extends, and then full council approval needs everybody. A motion to extend until 10 p.m. But what we don't say is that we cannot ever extend beyond 10 p.m. What if we can?
I hate to say, yeah, I'd say the same thing, it's implicit that 10 p.m. is a hard deadline.
No, put it in there. No extension past 10 p.m. or whatever.
I thought you were going to suggest maybe
Don't allow
it's 8.
people to.
Maximum, extend until the maximum of 10 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Something until no later.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, no later than 10 p.m.
That's like no later than 10. Next.
The top of page 17 is C, responsibility. Currently reads the city recorder or such person, or such other person the mayor may designate. Talking about the responsibilities for doing this. The mayor can designate, but I think the language is missing. It's saying that the council must approve before the mayor signs the designation. The way it reads now to me is the mayor just makes up his own mind, which I know is not true. Oh, I'm sorry, what I had in here is the mayor, city manager, or in the absence of the city manager, then we provide it. They designate for preparing minutes, I'm sorry. Forget myself. So preparing minutes is as a directive to the reporter to do it. But it is done, the mayor's not here, so we have to provide officer. Is that the person that's at the meeting?
So you want to change board mayor to presiding officer?
I'm thinking, yeah, from the absence of the city manager. Who is actually telling what to do? Is the city manager going to do it? Or the presiding officer?
Realistically, if the city reporter can't make it to one of the meetings, the city manager can tell someone else.
Okay, so that's what we need. Throw in the mayor, the city manager. Except for the person as the city manager. They're not communication, they're in charge.
Yeah, it's not a manager won't be here either, so I'll make the presiding officer.
Well, the question is he going to do it as a city manager, or are we going to have two different people in charge?
City manager board is it for absence?
You know, somebody's got to make decisions that trumps all the others. So I'm thinking what he says, the city manager is going to do it. We don't need the other methods, but the mayor makes
Okay, that's fine.
it. Okay. Almost halfway down the same page, 17, it's he is in Victor from number 5. The form of executive session minutes shall be either written minutes or a sound recorded. Who makes that decision? And I have the words as directed by underlined. Who's making the decision? City manager. Diane.
The mayor or his designee, or the presiding officer if consistent with your change.
You know, just somebody's got to be in charge of actually making the decision and communicating. Now it doesn't say that.
It would fall under C, the preparing minutes designation. Because the sound recording or minutes as well, but it's not written. I've seen some cases where the staff is doing shorthand, because some people still have it.
That's coming up, so push it down. So do we need somebody to be a director? in that?
Well, I think the way it's written falls under subsection C.
For responsibility.
Finally, it is.
Okay, good. About halfway down is Roman numeral, II. Notes will be taken either in shorthand or briefhand. That means everything is done by the council. There should be high tech later on to be able to do it on, say, PC, laptop, or something else. Some computerized form is also something. Somebody will have a reporter who actually wants to give you ideas. Right.
I would suggest that entire sentence come out.
It's like an appendix.
Okay. So II is coming out. Okay.
Is that an attorney job over there?
Next. Okay, same page, down to the bottom is F, submittal to council. After being prepared in final form by the city recorder or designee, the city recorder shall sign the minutes. But we also have room for designee. So the point of the city recorder who has to sign the minutes that we got developed by a designee. What was actually signed was the person that was in charge of doing the actual work, which may not be the recorder.
That would be the designee, yes. The
Right,
person,
that's what I'm gonna get at. This is the person that actually did the reporting,
Yeah.
regardless of what their title is. The way it's written now, when the reporter can do different designated.
this designee is the same designee that was designated to do the minutes in the first place.
How about the, if we say the author?
Yeah.
We can go on.
Recorder.
Or designate prepare the file.
Yes, the preparer shall sign the minutes.
That works.
Okay. A little bit below that is letter G, second line. The individual council may call for additions or corrections to the minutes. So either the individual council can demand a change to the minutes, or should it also be that there will be a vote that has voted upon the council? And may make it an opposition to the council votes on the change. That's not said here. Right now it says I can just do that.
Council's authority is the final authority is the amendment on the minutes.
Yeah, because the next sentence says unless there is disagreement from other councilors, so the councilor can call for a change, but the council does not have to agree to it.
Okay, we're good. On page 18, the top is paragraph H, retention. The second line talks about a city vault or the storage area, just ratification. I think I've asked this before in private. What's the city vault?
They can't tell you, Jim, that's why you don't know.
It's a treasure map.
Yeah,
It's been in the way.
I'm just wondering if it actually is the right
For real
chair. Where is the story?
Where the physical copy stores is stored is, I would imagine they're on a server.
I don't know, but we have to have the right words in here for this story.
I think one of the council goals is to digitize it and put it on the server. I don't know if it's done currently. I don't know.
They have a permanent housing for it now, where it's retained in the physical file, and so it could be on the server. But that's all that means. These minutes go to a centralized, permanent retention location, whether it's electronic or physical.
Yeah. The point is we don't have the right words in here. The vault doesn't use us, it shouldn't be us.
Well, it does give a strange visual. Maybe you're safe or something. They have this stuff back.
What is the right term?
Subjective, did you know what this was?
I would say just take out the two city vault or other, and just call it the storage area for permanent retention. So,
Yeah, I just want to make sure we have the right, going to the right place. Historically. Okay, a little bit further down to paragraph 6, right of conflict to be heard. Currently reads, any conflict designed to be heard should be recognized by the presiding officer, but shall confine his or her remarks to subject and consideration of all. How about shall request to be recognized? Right now, it implies that the presiding officer automatically has to immediately do it with some signal. But isn't it really a request for the presiding officer? So it can have it be acceptable with.
Well, but this is the right to be heard, not the right to request to be heard.
Okay.
And I think that the intent there is that a counselor who wishes to speak should wait to be recognized by the presiding officer to speak.
Who controls the meeting, and so that person controls the order of speaking, and go down the line or go backwards.
Okay, so you guys are comfortable with it?
You're like,
Desiring to be heard shall request to be recognized by the presiding officer. Once recognized, shall confine to the clerk amongst themselves. For me, it just lays it out there. You guys happy with this one? This is two of us, he and I both at the same time. Presiding officer, right? So we're missing the language of how the presiding officer decides between two or more people who are simultaneously asking. So I just threw in something as a start. The presiding officer must recognize the requesting counselor, but shall determine the order of recognition if more than one counselor simultaneously makes the sorting out.
Well, I think that the presiding officer has a lot of discretion in terms of how to run a meeting. I mean, I certainly agree that we should put in clarifications where they're needed, but, I mean,
We can say speak once.
Okay, we'll look at them. Under 7A, Robert's rules, there's a highlighted thing here. It says the city attorney presiding officer.
Presiding officer is
Let's scratch down. In the middle of it is a paragraph B beginning with the letter I, regular meeting. What it doesn't do for me in here is the fact that our current mayor on a couple of occasions had asked me to go to another place to do it. So I don't see this paragraph giving them permission to go to the meeting at another place to be determined. The designated council chambers. That's here. I think we're missing something in there to allow, permit other locations. But I don't have a recommendation on how to stick that in there, but I think that is.
Well, the council shall meet in the designated council chambers
Or other areas.
or other areas requested by the presiding officer.
Who's going to select another place? So far, it's just been used in there. But can anyone in the council decide that, hey, 2 meetings from now, we're going to go to place X?
Actually, gave me some suggestions, I made suggestions.
This is designed to prevent secret meeting, people throwing the meeting around, the location around to try to get around, the public process. And so the reason I understand these other meetings were at other locations was the opposite. It was to accommodate the anticipated increased attendance, not because we didn't have the facilities here to handle it, because it, technically it accommodated the increased attendance because it was closer to their place where they live. So I think as long as it's done sparingly, it should be fine.
But by
You won't
law,
have a void meeting because of it.
by law, they have to be held in Phoenix.
Oh, yes.
So, well, the city council shall meet in the city of Phoenix, period.
Well, your city
Well,
manager's never gonna let
that's
that
state law.
happen anyway. I mean, if somebody tries to put the meeting out in like Cave Falls or something, they'd be all over it. They'd be all.
You know, what you could potentially do is add a sentence that with the consent of the council,
Yeah.
the mayor may designate an alternative meeting location. And that way you can have your meeting Estates or.
Okay. Well, there have been times we haven't gone through city council and city's recommended that we go wrap with the Pure building, and it just gets done.
Well, those were special meetings, and so that these special meetings, you can specify a location.
Okay, it's fine, the language just mentioned for the minute.
Yeah, I just want to be, okay, you can do it anyway. Okay. Okay, page 19, in the middle of paragraph D, point of order. Underlined, it says, regarding officer may consult with the city attorney. I think there's now another place that now designated the city attorney as a parliamentarian. Isn't that why we really consult with him?
Well, a point of order is made to the presiding officer.
Mhm.
And in many cases, there's no discussion. The presiding officer, the motion is made, the presiding officer is required to rule on the motion. And I just threw that in there just to clarify that rather than the mayor or you or Terry, whoever happens to be presiding over the meeting, feeling like, uh-oh, I have to make a ruling on this point of order, I think the presiding officer should be able to pull the city attorney aside and say, okay, explain to me what the parliamentary rules say in this case, what are my options here?
Yeah, but they're really doing that in the role of parliamentarians.
Yes.
So maybe the city attorney to parliamentarian, change the nomenclature.
But if that is the city attorney,
It's
Well,
what I'm
except that
saying,
the city
but, you know,
attorney-
we have language in there that says he's not a parliamentarian. So that's how he gets used, is one of these, you know,
what is directed to the mayor, then he has to get advice, because if the city attorney has the parliamentarian, right?
because you're going to be doing here. There's a human being you're going to talk to, who happens to be the city attorney, also is designated the parliamentarian. And what is his role in talking to you at this point?
So you want to change city attorney to parliamentarian?
That clarifies, we know that they're one and the same, but it clarifies the role he's playing at that moment.
That's fine, it's the same person.
Get two of these, switch it up, but
Okay, throw this one out for you. A little bit further down is paragraph E is an echo question to be stated. You read through it. What I wrote in the notes was only, as an addition, think about this, only the presiding officer has the authority to direct the recorder on conduct of the roll call vote. Says, above that, it says the roll call vote should be taken upon the request of any counselor. But the counselor isn't directly telling the recorder to do that, I don't think. Simply the counselor is requesting the mayor direct the recorder. And what's the lines of communication, lines of authority?
You always go with an ordinance.
That's a good question.
you have to have a roll call on every vote anyway.
Yeah, but if you read the language that's already there, it says a counselor can call for it.
Well, I think, I don't know for sure, I think that the intent was that the presiding officer has the discretion of calling for a voice vote or a roll call vote on any questions except an ordinance. You must have a roll call vote on an ordinance. And I think what this section is trying to say is that any counselor can request a roll call vote in lieu of a voice vote on any matter.
The request of the action.
Well, sure, the presiding officer would call a vote, but the way this is written, it says a counselor, a roll call vote shall be taken. So basically, what this is saying is that any counselor can demand a roll call vote in lieu of a voice vote.
And for example, if he says any, all in favor, or all against, say nay, and nobody says anything, then the vote is clear, but the roll call will make you go one by one.
So for example, with our FERA vote tonight, somebody could have said, hey, I want that to be a roll call.
Correct. I think it's more intended for a situation where it's not clear whether there are more ayes than nays, and the mayor says, all right, the ayes have it. So I said, no. I want a roll call vote.
So if we change the last two words of that E to any matter. So roll call vote shall be taken upon request of any counselor in the same manner as the final adoption of any matter.
Well, I think
No, this has written.
grammatically, you would say a roll call vote shall be taken on any matter upon the request of any council. If we really want to clarify that.
That works.
Yeah. Would be really gonna do with the project.
Is there anything, if you don't mind me stepping in, just to put this out here? We started on page 16, we're starting page 16, we're on page 19 out of 34.
Yep.
We've got 2 students that have their first day of school tomorrow. Is there a way to do that and then come back to this after, if we can extend the meeting?
There's definitely a way to do that.
I'm just curious, because I want to pay attention to this, but in the back of my mind, they're back there and have first day of school.
We want to delay consideration of this matter to a time certain.
Until after you got basically moved the agenda. What do you guys think? Not to him, but
You have the discretion of just saying, okay, we're gonna pause on this item and take up a different item
and
and
then
then
come
come
back
back
to
to
it. What do you guys think? You okay with that? And then you mark where you want that. Because I want to order your notes.
Okay.
Okay.
20,000.
So let's,
Is that okay, not to be odd with the?
no, that's fine, it makes a lot of sense. I
That's
feel,
awesome.
I feel their pain. So we're gonna go to, A, the discussion of youth representatives in the city council,
Page 35, I think.
page 35. And just let me start by saying that I went to a city council meeting over in Eagle Point, and they had student representatives there. Student representatives, two young ladies, they came up and they gave information from the school to the city council. And I thought, hey, well, we have good liaisons from our high school to our city council. So I just envisioned them coming here and giving us information about what's going on at high school, and what's giving information to them, they bring it back to the high school. And that's the genesis of how we came about to have our liaisons, which are local people, it's having a meeting, we're glad to have them. Those are the council discussion, what you guys think they should do, and Mike, why don't you go first? And have a
We went through, it's mentioned a little bit, we went through a pretty rigorous process that involved a lot of teachers and the administrators, meetings, and some responses to asking questions. We had a grading rubric with it. We really tried to do it as intentionally as possible, retail choices. Priscilla and Gabe were fantastic. I had both the students, and I gave them homework to think about what they'd like their role to be. I've met with Dr. Rugrath at the high school, and we're working on that end, how they're going to work with student leadership there, and we kind of envision student leadership there, student government at the high school, kind of reporting to these two student city council reps, and then they would share with us, and then it'd kind of be, they'd be the information kind of go-betweens with that, but also speak for the students and inform the students of what's going on in the city. And I'd like to recommend, both of them said they had done their homework, good job. And before we discuss, I think it might be valuable to get their impressions on what they think, so we can move forward with that in mind.
Say, looking at 2 minutes, let me put you on the spot. What do you expect to do as liaison, Jill? Yeah. Hand up. Here we go. Do we both go? Yeah.
We did scare up all the community members.
And our county commissioner.
So you guys doing? Good.
So one of the things was how we were going to exactly get information from the school and then communicate it here. And our school has a budget meetings every month. So I think something useful would be going to those meetings and meeting with the ASB officers and administration officers goes to those meetings. And just get input from them and then bring it back to you guys. So we can always do that, and then we're meeting with the principal this Thursday to discuss the role to a grade step. So we could do more of those meetings too in the future, if they're necessary, and just get as much information as possible needed to communicate more effectively between the two. And then when it comes to how exactly we should give our input in discussions, I think the best option is for us to weigh in on, I don't know about Pedro, but I think the best option is to weigh in on issues concerning you and the student community of Phoenix. Because personally, I just don't know much about local government, and obviously that's what I'm here to, so I can learn. But as of right now, I don't know too much, so I wouldn't really feel comfortable weighing in on issues to that extent.
You guys don't want to weigh in on the stuff we were just talking about?
No.
I was fascinated.
I mean, it's
Like,
You lie like a rug. You lie like a rug.
Just like,
I mean, this is cool stuff, but I just feel like I don't know enough to know, or to, in my opinion. So I don't know if that would mean that we only come to meetings where something of that sort is on the agenda. And yeah, I just feel like in the agenda they give 2 examples of different things that other representatives do, and I have to know just report back to. I think that's just the most simple, effective.
alright, so, you guys want to talk? Is that, alright, do I go or do you guys?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Okay, so I'm gonna actually kind of like that, but like, so I'm really big on numbers, and this whole year, like, well, last year, I was calculating all the like there were just all these problems, and I've been thinking in my head all the time. I'm gonna talk to Trump for 8 hours about these problems with the students leaving the school and how we can get the money, tax, everything, and I get fascinated in that kind of stuff. And with numbers, big numbers, small numbers, and community is a very strong thing for me. And for what I think I could bring to the table also is just like communication with the problems, because in these ISB meetings, which are the government meetings, I would actually bring up these problems and push everyone in the government of our school to become better people, because I don't know, last year just really felt like it was very slacking. Like there was just a lot of slack, and they didn't improve a lot. And this year, a lot needs to happen because our school is losing so much money, and I'm here and I'm ready to just be there for everyone. I've thought of solutions, everything like that, from why we've lost $1.5 million each year now because we've lost 160 students, and how we can fix that. I've just thought about all kinds of solutions, and I'm just here to try my best.
Well, I think part of the idea we had discussed at the end of last year too is this gives the student leadership of the school more kind of meaning or reason or kind of significance. So hopefully they're trying to reinvigorate that program at the school too. Instead of just organizing like pep assemblies, you've got to say in the community and a real reason to meet for what's going on in the community.
And show them what's going on even at the school and how we could solve these issues.
And that might be a nice piece too, as opposed to just having the communication go one way where you all hear from us and simply go back to school. It's important for us to hear what's going on, what are some of the concerns that youth have in our community? What are some of the concerns going on at the high school? I heard you just talk about funding and revenue, which has been on the decline at the state level for a long time. So it's really important for us to be better community representatives to hear from you all. So maybe we can add an agenda item that's a regular reoccurring agenda item to hear report outs from you all about whatever issues that you want to bring up and you feel are relevant to local government. And then you can come to the meetings and take things back for, what was the group called again? The ASB?
Yeah, Associated Student Body.
Okay,
Student government.
Just to the student government. So does that sound like the way that you all want to participate is just kind of creating a two-way communication channel?
Well, it might be interesting too, they get the agenda ahead of time too, and part of their
Yeah.
homework is to read through it.
Yeah.
And then maybe if you guys read through that, and there's any items you would like to speak to, then you can let us know ahead of time, and we can get them, you know, if they want to weigh in on those.
Yeah.
Those things, you know, like the community center, you guys using that would be used by, we enjoy hearing, you know, the students do that too.
Awesome.
So that sounds like the best way for the participation to operate. Now, are there other questions, like logistical questions about how this relationship will manifest? Any concerns that people have about? I'm excited. Y'all are, you're down for reading those packets, which are pretty intense, or at least reading the sections that you know you're really interested in.
Games are, you guys are both buttons for punishment, that is good. They passed this show, so.
Also, I'll bring up a point that the gal that we're, at Kimball High School, we're bringing up high school issues. Yeah, where was one high school? That'd be great if you could, start saying.
Yeah, very talked to a few teachers and they've had a lot of things already.
And you just want to do a more lengthy presentation, like do a bond.
Yeah, the bond.
I'm reluctant to say yay or nay on any bond issue as far as the council goes, but a presentation for you guys, we have before, and it's probably four, where you give a presentation regarding, we put on a presentation slot regarding the bond issue. But I don't, at some point, I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you want to actually participate in one city council meeting after a while, and just sit up here and discuss, you know, the 1 week and the other week, and just sit up here on the dais with us and partake.
That'd be awesome.
At some point, I think it'd be kind of fun for you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
They need like shorter chairs.
How's it getting sick?
Smaller
Like the
tables.
bridge chairs. Bridge chairs? Just kidding, sorry.
That'd be funny. That'd be so fun.
Jesus. You want to say something?
It's a useful product, and as long as you folks can find things to talk to us about that the students and yourself need, communicate to us. Some of the things may not be appropriate for us to decide on, but it's nice to know that. And of course, you're going to learn a lot by hearing what we're doing because we're, you know, dealing with money or whatever it happens to be. And having your opinion as a student or representative of the students about what we're doing with our spending of the money or whatever it is would be very useful to you. So I think it's a good all-around thing. Everybody benefits from this.
Sure, and I can see a lot of issues we've had over the past few months that would be worthwhile for them to weigh in on, like the community center, even the road. You guys, I see Gabe every day crossing the road to Circle K at lunch or something, you know? Or things like the mural, like is that something the students would enjoy? Or talking with some students, we put in horseshoe pits at Culver Park, but you know, there may be not a whole lot of students that partake in the horseshoe pits and they want something with the basketball court or something, you know? So things like that to share with us.
That'd be really cool.
Thanks for your book, guys.
Thank you.
Now go get some sleep, you have school tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Sit up towards the front of class, students in the front get better grades.
Let's go back to where we were in the council rules.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Tangent.
Yeah, needed a break.
I'll let you kind of move on. Okay, page 21 near the top. A1, council to annually review the contract with the city manager. Good
City
idea.
attorney.
I'm sorry.
The city shall review the contract with the city attorney. It's the
City attorney. Good idea, but I think there's some specificity that needs to be put in here because are we reviewing it right on the annual, I'm just talking right now, on the annual date of its 1 year? Or are we going to do it common sense thing and back it off maybe 2 months or something to do the review of that contract before it expires? And is the idea to extend the contract is one possibility, which would be extending for another year, I think. Or to terminate, when you terminate, you don't want to terminate probably the night that you meet and tell the person because you have no backup. So I think if you want to have a system here, you want to do the review before the end of the year of the contract is over. So you can make a decision that's in for the future, or you can either terminate it on the end of the contract, or you can extend it for a year, or you can have a termination date in between the end of this one and the end of the next year, because you don't want the city manager to be here.
City attorney. So,
city manager.
The council shall annually review the contract of the city attorney approximately 60 days before the contract renewal date.
Yeah, I threw some ideas in here, and they're probably gonna be hard for me to read, but council shall at least annually review the existing contract of the city manager, or city attorney, I'm sorry, and shall vote to continue the contract for 1 year from the anniversary date. You still have to read my notes. But basically, it's why are we doing the review? The review is to terminate or continue. So when should we do the review versus the end of that contract?
Well, there's one that just continue to terminate, it could be a rate, or going on, I think, 110 to 115 per hour. So it could be changing the rate. I don't know, Jim, but why don't we just do it 60 days beforehand, let it fall where it may?
Yeah, I'm just saying, the common sense thing, you want to do the decision making before the end of the contract. By some amount of time, give you some time to actually decide what you're going to do.
I don't know for sure. I suspect that what this really means is you're reviewing the performance of the city attorney. And I would hope that your next city attorney contract has a termination for convenience provision in it. If you have a termination for convenience provision, you can terminate at any time for any reason. You need not wait for an anniversary date or an annual review of the contract to do that. I think, again, I don't know what the intent here was, but I suspect the intent was that you wouldn't just hire an attorney and then go 5 years without ever reviewing the performance.
Well, yeah, I combined with the same because of the really good is performance. That's what you say. Reviewing the contract,
you could certainly change the word contract to performance.
Yeah. So I think that would be appropriate. And it's the timing of that relative to the contract that would be useful to. So you do it right on the anniversary date. So if you don't like the performance, you have to hire the attorney that day. So you extend his contract for a little while to get him. What's the process?
Does the contract automatically get renewed unless we?
Well, apparently it does, because we don't find years that.
Interestingly, you currently have a city attorney contract with no term. So, simply, it's just an open-ended contract of the city attorney until terminated.
But the new contract is on an annual basis. We do the performance and we decide we don't want to continue to serve. It's a smart time to make that decision.
Well, again, if you have a termination for convenience provision, you can do it at any time. I can tell you that as a city manager / county administrator, that the reason that we insist on having an annual performance review written into the contract is to avoid a situation which happens all too frequently, where an issue festers with the council and they never talk to you about it. So you want to have language that will require the council to sit down with you at least once a year, if not more, and get those festering issues out on the table. This is a little bit different because it's a contractor, it's not an employee. But I suspect that the intent is the same, that you want to make sure that the council and the city attorney is one of your most important agents, not employee. You want to make sure that they are performing up to your expectations. And I suspect that is the reason why you have this language in the code, is to ensure that the council does not suffer poor performance for any unreasonable period of time.
During the good review, performance of the city attorney annually, that suffice without specifying the renewal date or anniversary date.
And yet, we get into this and discuss it, it's really performance for a new contract would be for 1 year with performance, maybe for this year. termination.
So you use what contract performance that work for you?
Yeah, I just want to make sure what we do here is in process the waiver any contract and picking the smart time in that process. If the contract for 1 year, let's put the smart time during that 1 year. If we do this review right at the end or a few months before the end.
Well, I would certainly not recommend entering into just a one-year contract. It's gonna take any new attorney some time to get up to speed on issues and code revisions that are unique to Phoenix. And the more typically, what I would suggest is a 3-year term that automatically renews in 1-year increments after that initial 3-year term expires. But again, if you have determination for convenience, the fact that the contract has renewed really doesn't matter. All it means is if you get to the end of the 3-year period and you have not acted to terminate, it automatically renews. I'm trying to think, I'm not doing a very good job of what language to put in there that would specify when you're going to do a performance review of the attorney.
We need some guidance in the way we forget about it. And then we get extended and say, 12 months is the right amount of time. If we get stuck to 18, 24, certainly because we go to we have a hard and fast rule. So, every 12 months from the beginning of the contract, I mean, something like that.
Well, you can also do a review of your attorney at any time. You're not limited to doing it annually, or you're not limited to doing it on an anniversary date or within a certain time of the anniversary date. And I would hope that if the council were unhappy with the performance of the city attorney, that you would say, okay, we want to have an executive session to review your performance. Put all the issues on the table regardless of renewal dates and regardless of anniversary dates.
So I was thinking that a performance review based on a request by the majority of the council or something like that, which could happen.
I think the review is good to have. If you want to put in language specifying what that is, probably would be along the lines of 1 year or 12 months.
We don't have to understand
Well, if you have some language and some date, we can put it in here, get it worked out.
Yeah, I think so. He's not talking about a 3-year contract. And we could wait the next 3 years, or we could do it next time we're mad at it. Because you don't want to do it when we get mad at it. You want to do it at some point before that. Such, what's the routine we're going to have? How do we know when routine date comes up?
We don't have any objection to having stay or get on that.
Okay, well, I looked under the city attorney, page 21, the entire body of work there that he has. The one thing I think that's missing, we could probably maybe be B9, to serve as parliamentarian. We say elsewhere he's supposed to do that, but we don't have it listed under his position description. So I think B9 could be added. Serve as parliamentarian in all council meetings, which attendance is permitted. Do not permitted to be at all.
It's fine.
No, it's not.
So 9 serves as parliamentarian at all city council meetings.
That he's permitted to be in. He's not permitted to call. I think we're down to the last 2. On page 21, there's the paragraph A, the council may communicate, create committees to assist on the budget. The second line in there should appoint members to such committees. I think we talked about this in earlier time. The council approving them before the mayor appoints them. And then it's not there.
It's like with council concurrence, the mayor shall appoint.
Yeah.
Members of such committees to serve
purpose being created.
So this is in our charter too. That's where it's kind of a bit redundant across two different articles.
I would just say, subject to the consent of the council, the mayor shall appoint members and secretary.
Okay, page 22, on the middle of the paragraph 6. This is where we get to detail people. There shall be no audience demonstrations such as applause, cheering, design of signs, or other content disruptive of the hearing. Every once in a while, the people in here like what they're having.
But this is for quasi judicial hearing. It's not a regular item on the agenda, right?
Yeah.
We call it land use and other.
But every once in a while, the members of the audience go, yay, we like that.
Where they come from.
I'm going to throw them out because of that.
That's something else. Yeah. I've never seen anyone get thrown out of a meeting for applauding.
No, it says here they can't do it. But we have a rule, they can't do it.
But this is for a legislative quasi judicial hearing. Someone's appealing a land ordinance ruling.
But people still have this emotional attachment if they come to the meeting. I'm just looking at, maybe spontaneous stuff that lasts for a few seconds.
I would strongly recommend not changing that line. I think that what it does is it gives the mayor, the presiding officer, the opportunity to bang the gavel and say, hey, this is a quasi judicial proceeding. We're not going to have any applause or cheering in the audience.
Okay. Good. Last one, page 24 on the top. The records of proceedings. Number 1, the city recorder or other designated the presiding officer.
You lost it. Which number again?
Page 24 in the top is an F1.
Yes.
We got this stenography or electronic recording things in here, so whatever we did with the other one, I was going to do.
Just take out stenographer, please.
You also have language in the charter, and frankly, the charter trumps the code, regardless of what the code says, that says that minutes of your meeting shall be kept in written or mechanical form. I'm not sure mechanical is the right word, since everything is electronic, but I think we all understand what that means. Yeah. I think stenographically, it's a really, it's a 15-letter word for written.
Okay, I'm going to terminate.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's great.
And you're gonna have a very
Yeah. For 8 hours.
We don't into that, just a quick discussion on other items not addressed in the council rules that we want to consider. So I like some of the recommendations in here. We don't currently,
You're on page.
let's see. Yeah, 14. And if the heading is other items currently not addressed in the council rules that the council may wish to consider. So I really like some of these that I go, oh yeah, we don't have any of that. So Dave has kind of warned us about this, but we don't have it in our rules anywhere, that we shouldn't discuss items raised in the public comment period unless we agendize them, because then we just get totally derailed. Like somebody brings something up and we start talking about, whatever it is, a dog barking in somebody's neighborhood, then we get derailed. So I do think we should add that. And with the piece that if we want to add it to a future agenda, that we could. Let's see.
Adding to a future agenda is already part of the council rules that we just went over.
But the part that's not in there is that we shouldn't discuss items raised in public comment period.
That is something you see in almost every city's municipal code regarding public comment or public forum. The issue is you don't want to have an unnoticed deliberation during a council meeting because someone brings something up and you start deliberating it. Okay, well, what about all the other people out there who might have a contrary view, who didn't know that you were going to be discussing this, but would have come to the meeting if they known you were?
But it also says any council can move an item raised in public comment to a future agenda or to the end of the current agenda.
For discussion.
For discussion, because then we wouldn't have that, the ability to notice the public.
Again, it becomes a council judgment call about the timeliness timeliness of the issue that was raised.
And I'm sure we're astute enough that if we, like other people may want to weigh in, let's put this off for a couple weeks and give proper notice.
So it sounds like we're, we generally agree that that should be in there. Just kind of moving down the list, so establishing ground rules regarding an individual counselor's or mayor's right to request staff action or research. I think this is really important. It says it's addressed, but it could be clarified. I do think this is important because we have a small staff and they're, they're working on a lot of stuff, and so we have to be critical and diligent about what it is that we're asking them to do and when we're adding things to their plate. So that's something that I want us to do.
I may know that's a little bit redundant to the way we're agendizing things. I think we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we got a 2-hour limit on it,
Right.
As it
So I think
stands.
that's already addressed.
Yeah, that is addressed. What you could do is add language, kind of soft language that says, all counselors are gonna respect that bright line between policy and administration. I'm not gonna give direction to staff. You're gonna go work through the city. Which any good city manager is gonna do anyway, but there's no harm in having it in the code.
We have some new city councilors. We just make sure that we never break the chain of command. We always go through Dave instead of going through staff. You don't want to direct the person Public Works or Evan or anybody else to do something. You always go through the city manager, Eric Swanson, pretty soon, and then he'll address that or get permission from him to talk to somebody. Okay?
I can show you language that I would suggest. I mean, if you want to look at it, if you don't adopt it, it's certainly not make or break.
Actually, another kind of looking through this section for, like, I don't disagree with any of the recommendations that are in here. And I think it would probably be the best thing for us just to have staff prepare language around these things. I mean, does anybody see anything that they go, oh, that's, really something I don't think we should include in our rules?
I have a question about, 1, 2, 3, the third one down. Add language stating that the failure to strictly adhere to council rules or rules of procedure does not invalidate a decision made by the council of duly noticed public meeting. Does that mean that if we make a decision, even though we broke the rules to get there, it still stands?
I think
I shouldn't say that.
I think if you do something that's minor, say failure to strictly adhere to council rules, do something that's minor, it doesn't invalidate the decision that you made.
There is language I can bring you that's in other cities' codes and it's basically what Chris is saying. You don't want to have someone challenge you in court over a decision because you didn't strictly adhere to some aspect of Robert's rules. There are certain things. There are certain things that are so big that you can't get around them. Like, if you adopt an ordinance at first and second reading, but you didn't notice it as an emergency measure, that's a rule that you can't get around. Okay, but if the mayor took a voice vote when he should have taken a roll call vote, you don't want to have that decision invalidated because of a minor procedural error. That's basically what you're trying to say in that section.
So I guess I'm just wondering what the mechanism that changes one to the other is. What takes it from being minor to major?
To be honest, it's simply giving you legal protection. It is a CYA provision. So that if a citizen says, oh, they failed to follow Robert's Rules of Order.
Dave, could you expand on that acronym for me?
I would, except for live streaming.
What do you like, please,
So,
I think to respond to you, Terry, I think that once again, this is a council, and when like a rule is like way out of whack, we're like, okay, it's an issue. I think that someone's gonna red flag it here, hopefully, before it even gets to the point where down the line, like Dave was talking about, someone comes back with, with a minor.
yeah, again, I'm just saying, you might want to consider this. If you don't put it in your council rules of procedure, This is not in every city's rules of procedure. I have seen it in other cities' rules of procedure. I personally think it's a good idea, but if it's not in there, it's one of those situations that's probably never going to arise. It's extremely unusual that anyone is so motivated to challenge an action that you've taken in court that they're going to do it on the basis of a procedural error.
Right. Yeah, seems like a seaway, I think there's no harm done.
But I don't know, if it's slippery, why do no harm to striking it? Are you okay with striking it?
Okay. I'm okay with it either way.
It's,
I just think, there could be some people now or in the future that might disagree with the ruling and, want to raise a stake about it. We get some pretty wonderfully passionate people here, who knows what the direction might be. If it doesn't hurt to have it in there.
council wants that down, council wants that down.
I would say that if we include it, we need to be as specific as possible.
Well, you could also modify it, and I'm sorry, I
know where I'm going, dude.
You could modify it to say failure to strictly adhere to Robert's Rules of Order, so that you have to adhere to the council rules.
That would be better.
But
That would be
Robert's
better.
Rules of Order.
The thing is we're meticulously going through rules and procedures and leaving vague language in is.
No, Jim's the only one allowed to do that.
Well, the Jim's smart. It's pretty smart.
Just kidding. It's a good point. It's a great point.
I,
Maybe that sounds good.
I'm happy with changing it to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, change it to Robert's. Consensus. I do that.
How do folks feel about the rest of it?
Okay, that was the most political, strong.
I really like to chart the motions. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Especially new counselors. Like myself.
Yeah.
What's the add language to play that agenda report, so we can, for all action items.
Where are we now?
Every action item?
Yeah.
Oh, I personally think there should be. And then you have that council code of conduct. I don't know where that came from.
I've seen it before, I don't know where it came from, but I read through it today, and it seems like I'd adopt it.
You would put this in the code?
I would take that, the one that we found, that you found in cabinet.
Well, can we, as long as we're having, staff, draft some of this out, we could,
It's just a way of making it clear to everybody. These are the motions you can make, and these are the ones that are debatable and not debatable. And this is when you need 2/3.
Yeah, I don't put those two together, things.
I don't feel like having another discussion questions when it comes to you guys.
there's only a few of them, there's 3. We just get through.
Yeah, we're almost there.
So like, on the first one, should the council be allowed to censure a counselor for violation of council rules? I would think no. I think that, we could talk to each other and figure it out, like, rational rules.
I agree.
Okay, seems
Yeah,
like there's
I agree.
consensus, anybody disagree? Okay. So should the rules contain language that prohibits the use of electronic devices? It already precludes phones, other than for accessing the agenda.
What is the harm other than being rude, I guess, is the question.
I've had people approach me because my texture my hour ago. But the concern is that people will contact us while we're deliberating. And I can understand that.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking it's gonna happen, but
It's tough to police guys. We talked about the foot last council. Really didn't go anywhere that when they're the policing issue. You can't tell what city council looking at. Can't tell looking at the score.
right.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is what's made available to the counselor in such, whether it's our, whatever it is.
Some people use the iPhone in place of each. Someone did that all the time. Look over and he scanning down through different things that the talking about, the rules and regulations. So some people just use different toys.
Yeah, well, I think it's policed by the voters too, if they're watching this and someone's always on their phone playing, you know, Minesweeper or something.
Well, that's the thing, is it is policed by the voters who talk about it. They brought it up, so here we are, you know.
What we're not talking about too is that, you know, establishing kind of like this code for how we look also to the general public. You know, if someone's up here texting somebody, even though they're not doing anything that's malicious or affecting what we're doing, it still gives that person the look of like, oh, this person doesn't care, so maybe more council doesn't care. So this at least says like, hey, look, we just don't want that to be happening up here.
I'm fine with putting it in there, even if it's difficult. At least like we could just, you know, have it in there and try to keep each other accountable to it.
And we already have verbiage about cell phones in there.
Yeah. Okay, people feel good about that?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Not particularly, but okay. Like, we can't do anything about it, we put it in there.
How about the audience and use their cell phone?
I guess it looks good.
How about the audience not being allowed to use their cell phones like one of us right now?
He's watching a video
He's
of us. It's really weird.
I'm watching the YouTube channel.
What are you talking about? You just
Live stream.
Okay, so the
And if
last
you're
one,
playing Minesweeper at work, you need to have the school district upgrade your computers. That's.
You know what, I got back into it. I got back into it, I'm not gonna lie, came back around to it.
so the last point in this one is, should a counselor who's going to be absent from a meeting have the right to unilaterally postpone consideration of an item scheduled to be considered that? I don't think unilaterally. I think there should be a process though by which somebody can request like, hey, y'all, I really want to join the conversation about this. Can you please not schedule it for a day I'm not going to be here? And then maybe the council,
By the majority of council.
yeah, a majority of council decides.
But you can't do that because then you're having a public discussion, a meeting, without being in the meeting. I look at this as saying it's a week before the meeting and I'm not going to be in town. You can't get all the council members and say,
Well,
hey.
let me do it through the city manager.
Well, yeah, there are two elements. I actually wrote the crafted language for this.
Okay.
So let me explain to you what I have in mind. One is, at a regular meeting, for instance, Mike says, hey, you know, I see at the next meeting, we're supposed to be considering a second reading of the Hillside Land Development Ordinance, and I really feel strongly about this. And can we please postpone that to October 2nd? Sure. And then the council can vote and say, okay, well, we'll honor Mike's wish that he be here for that vote, and we'll postpone it. Or they'll say, sorry, Mike, we don't like it anymore, and we're going to have to vote.
We never did it again.
Okay. Then the second thing is, if Mike is called out of town because, you know, someone gets great seats to a neighborhood field or something, and so he calls me a week before the meeting and he says, Dave, I'm going to be out of town on the 18th, and would you please postpone that item? And in that case, I'll say, okay, I will inform the council that I'm postponing the item, but the council has a right to overrule that at the meeting and go ahead and vote on it anyway. That's how I see it working.
Okay.
But
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because we already have the ability as counselors to postpone an agenda item.
as a council, as a whole council, we can make, what I'm talking about here is an individual counselor having the right to say, I want to postpone this item.
I think that, yeah, you talked about this.
Yeah, you're doing a public.
Then the results come out during a public meeting.
That's right.
We can put it back on, so. I think that's good. Did we do that? I think we did.
The Code of Ethics,
What page are you on?
page 15, top,
Okay.
in addition to copyright code, so you have the Code of Ethics. You have one of the
On page 27.
This was one of the things where it came up a little earlier, and I think we should actually, since we're having staff draft language for some of the other things, we should have them take a look at this and see if they have recommendations and maybe come back to us with like a new draft. Because this is, Dave, you were saying this was really old and found in a vault somewhere, is that right?
No, that's the code of conduct.
Okay, the code of ethics and code of conduct.
Yeah, the code of conduct I would tighten up and actually make it more code language rather than aspirational language. But I actually have an ordinance that I put in back in draft ordinance for code of ethics. And again, I feel pretty strongly that every local government should have a code of ethics.
This is not just the city council, it's for everybody.
Right.
Not only the city or as one official. That's what I was referring to earlier, it looked pretty good to me, and I'd like to adopt it.
Sorry, I got the two confused. Yeah, I like
Me
this
too.
as well.
Anybody object to having Dave or Eric draft an ordinance using this language?
Isn't this the draft?
It's drafted. This is what I would propose.
Can we pass it this evening? Is there any reason why we can't?
No, you cannot.
Oh,
Because
that has to be
you cannot
reading.
vote on an ordinance without noticing it first.
Okay, so, can we put it on a future agenda?
Yes, you can.
Great.
You can put it on September 18th if you wish.
And you'll be here to defend it, so you know.
Well, I was not planning to attend the September 18th meeting unless Eric specifically asked me to.
Understand.
I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I'm hoping to have your strategic plan completely finished and presented to you on the 18th for adoption. And I told Eric I would come to the meeting only if he wants me to. Otherwise, I mean, you all went through the strategic planning process. You don't need me to present your strategic plan. You all know what's in it and how we got there.
So I think we can button that item up. Any other discussion, guys? Okay. Move on to the next item. So, number 9A, first reading by title only, ordinance number 982, to allow social gaming. Second reading, public hearing will be held September 18th, 2017. On page 36.
And again, this was at the request of a businessman who came before you and indicated that he wants to open a social gaming business in Phoenix. In order to have social gaming under state law, you have to adopt an ordinance that specifically allows social gaming. And this time we did get the entire ordinance in your packet, so you can vote on it. There were certain things that the council specifically asked for when we had discussed this at a previous meeting. So they're all in the ordinance. Just want to assure you, no one under 21 is permitted. There's no charge or entry fee. The room in which the social gaming takes place must be open to law enforcement officers at all times. It does limit the hour, it does provide and allow for Spanish and non-English speaking individuals to participate. And we, at the council's request, we put in the location restrictions. The location restrictions are pretty much verbatim what's in the cannabis facility ordinance. So in terms of how we measure it and where they're allowed to locate, it's pretty much the same language. Given the linear nature of Phoenix and the fact that you have residential zones that come right up to your commercial zones, you're not going to have a whole lot of these facilities in Phoenix. I'd be surprised if you have one. But I'd be happy to answer any questions about the ordinance as drafted.
Okay. Let's have a motion.
I move approval on first reading by title only ordinance number 982, adding chapter 5.24, social gaming, Phoenix Municipal Code, and move the ordinance to second reading.
Second. Any more discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Shuck?
Yes.
Counselor Snyder?
Yes.
Counselor Cameron?
Yes.
Counselor Westover?
Yes.
Counselor Warren?
Yes.
Counselor Baker?
Yes.
Next item at 9B, the first reading by title only, ordinance 983, to section 3.7.4 again, development code, second reading, public hearing will be held 2017. As I was looking through that item, I noticed that the proposed motion wasn't correct. So going until the day Dave wrote up another motion, and you have to have two readings for ordinance. It wasn't worded properly. So if we're ever going to read a motion, I'll give this to you and you can read the motion, which is I move to approve on first reading by title only of the ordinance amending section 3.7.4, the land development code, and move the ordinance to a second reading. That's the proper reading. But let's, Dave, want one the first item?
Actually, I'm gonna have Evan introduce, explain this item.
Okay, Evan McKenzie, planning director. So the short version of this is that it would allow larger lot sizes than currently mandated by the code, and also allow narrower street sections than currently required. The main reason being that when you're doing hillside development, in order to achieve a buildable area on a slope, you have to do a lot of cuts and fills. The steeper the slope, the more cuts and fills you have to do, the more expensive it is, the more unstable it can be, the more it can lead to problems, stormwater and otherwise. What's before you is slightly revised from what was submitted by the applicant originally. We actually, through two hearings with the planning commission, made some changes that made some greater allowances than originally proposed, although cut back on a few. One of the big changes we made to the original proposal was kind of a graduated allowance for larger lots based on slope. So 15 to 25%, you can go up to 12,000 square feet. Anything more than 25% slope, we don't count it. The assumption is that you're really not going to be building on lots and any land on a lot that's in excess of 25% slope. So we wouldn't count it at all towards your maximum lot size or density if we move to a density standard in the future. That is probably the most important part of the amendment. I didn't have much else to present tonight, but mostly wanted to make sure I can answer any questions or come back at the second read with any response to questions you have.
Do we have any land that has more than 25% slope around here?
Very little of it is not already developed. So the person who submitted the application owns the only property that would really be impacted, and that's the hill over on the east side of town. Portions of the hill right here on Ammerman would be impacted and were noticed, but in the real world there is no effect to them whatsoever because the lots are already developed. So the lot size issue, the streets are already there. We're well past where that would affect them. The Mahar property is obviously owned by the applicant. The property directly east of that is owned by SOU. We expect that they will want to sell it at some point to someone who will develop it, and portions of it will certainly be affected. So we would get, in the end, if it does develop, we would not require, but we would allow less dense development or larger lot sizes, depending on how you want to look at it, than we would require today.
What would be the reason to put a maximum lot size limit
Well, on flat land, that makes a whole lot of sense. We don't want, Oregon land use law basically dictates that land within urban growth boundaries will develop at an urban intensity. On slopes, doing so is very expensive and practical really only when market conditions would dictate it, where you have very expensive property. Some property in Ashland might meet that, but that's about the only property in the Road Valley where you can see really steep slopes getting developed. Portland, yes. Seattle, San Francisco, places like that where the value of land is so high that it makes sense to develop on slopes, but otherwise, just you don't see it. It doesn't. You can't do it to meet market conditions and make and money. Yep. Unless it's already done, I will fix the motion.
I wrote it out.
Second.
We got the motion, you got it.
But, so at the second reading, you'll have a proper recommended motion.
Cool. Oh, any more discussion, guys?
That's okay for you.
Thank you. I move approval on first reading by title only of an ordinance amending section 3.7.4 of the Land Development Code and move the ordinance to second reading.
Also. More discussion? Roll call, please.
Counselor Baker,
Yes.
Counselor Shuck,
Yes.
Counselor Snyder,
Yeah.
Counselor Cameron,
Yes.
Counselor Westover,
Yes.
Counselor Warren.
Yes. We're down to the city manager report. And, before you get your report, Dave's been absolute joy to work with. I mean, professional, came in a tough situation. Just day to day, just work with, meetings are pleasant, well organized, and, I really enjoyed having with us. He's not going to completely We're not going anywhere. No point in assignment into that. You've been great work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, can we make a Dave Cantor Day? Can the mayor do that?
We
Let's
can
do
have a
it.
park out there.
Ooh.
Well, congrats on proclamation.
Well, you should get a picture of me somewhere that people can sit.
What about the skate park? It could be the Dave Cantor skate park.
Giving the world skate park.
Memorial.
True, well, I would have your time here. Sorry.
I think you put in one of the new speed bumps after.
Oh, just to slow us down and make us think about what we're doing. That would be a little more appropriate.
She used to be a speed bump.
Yeah, that's it, I like that.
Well, thanks, it's been fun. I tell my colleagues in the profession that everybody when they retire should do an interim job.
It's just a nice day. And the city of Medford, we're getting the city of Talon involved now, and the city of Eagle Point. It's just a big collaborative effort.
What are the times on the 23rd?
9 to noon.
9 to
Yeah, so in the Rogue Valley MPO meeting, they had a gentleman come give a synopsis of what went on throughout Rogue Valley. And Phoenix was very well represented by the amount of people, the amount of garbage they picked up. I think we were second, and we looked very, very nice in that meeting. We did a good job.
It's a good thing. It's really in a very low intensity for our staff and for us, and because it is a solid event, there's a lot of organizing that happens from that body of people, which is really pretty sweet.
The key was having our staff pick up garbage in the truck.
Yeah, that's huge. That was a nice thing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Okay, fine.
Parade must go on, it's still going. Flyer, all information and registration went out to all the businesses that we had emails for participation, and all the other emails we had, flyers, and we're trying to track down some banners we used previously. But things are in the works, and school's on top of it on that end, so it's going good so far.
That banner must be here somewhere. They lost
That
the
big
old
street.
banner. It's huge. It's gotta be somewhere.
Gotta be here somewhere, so I was gonna ask right in, I'll email him
There's a
again.
man right there, is that it?
No,
Sitting on it the whole time.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of banners back here.
Yeah, they gotta be, that goes across the whole street, it's gotta be pretty.
That's it.
Great.
Is that the normal one? Is that the street one? Oh, you dominated. What are we gonna do about that, Dave? I mean, look at that, literally, we're sitting on it the whole time.
I know it's here somewhere.
We gotta change
Oh,
the
but I have
date.
to take,
Yeah, so I'll run it by the sign company there and see if we can get the date changed.
Nice finding here.
Yeah, look at that, check that off.
I'm so good at yours.
I'm like really happy about that, that's like, yeah, one of the top parts of my day so far.
So Cindy, how's it going over there? Good. Very detailed city council meeting tonight. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, hey, Cindy, did you get your email results, or not really? Maybe you wanna report out to council on that.
I haven't been able to log on to my email, so that's why nobody sent me anything. My tablet doesn't work, so I won't be able to, I'll just do it on that.
I'm gonna say to that, I'm the only one using the city laptop.
You know, I can tell you, I've created a lengthy list of items for Eric to work on. And one of the items is to trash these ridiculous things and get you, each one of these, a MacBook or something comparable to a MacBook. So that we.
But
At least an iPad.
these, mine doesn't even work. My computer doesn't work. It won't stay charged. It dies automatically after being unplugged. It doesn't work. You got the MacBook.
I think if the city is serious about going paperless, do it right. Even if it costs a little money up front, do it right.
All right. Councilor Baker, what's going on?
Nothing to say.
All right, cool.
Thanks, David. That's all I got to say.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.
Productive meeting.
Jim, I appreciate your detail.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, so what's people on?
No.
No, sometimes that's how those things need to be. You can't make it say.
Yes. If you're looking for that tomorrow,
I'm happy to run through it with our HOA. That was.
Wait, for sure.
Hi, Terry.
Yeah.
I wasn't there telling you.
Never you should get that sense of here.
However, though, she put it on DVD.
Oh, yeah, I know. You having trouble with the DVD?
Well, there's just a lot of people that have DVDs.
I'm so done.
Yeah, but I went quarter.
No, every time you see the maps of the fires, they're all like,
It was large enough.
really?
Can I,
Oh, that's scary.
I'm gonna,
Consider that.